All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Tackling Tough Interview Questions webinar. Now that we are deep into internship season, we're moving on towards interview season. And it can be really nerve-wracking prepping for an interview. And unfortunately, even with all the preparation, you can still feel pretty nervous. And this is a webinar to help you boost your confidence and tackle those tough interview questions you're not really prepared for. So let's get started, and I will share my screen. Alrighty. Let's start with tackling tough interview questions and how to prepare. All right, so to prepare for an interview, you want to make sure that you research the company. This is really important not only for you to understand the company's mission, but also kind of what they do. Great resources would be the company website. LinkedIn is a great resource. So is Glassdoor. So utilize those websites to really think about what you want from this company and prepare for any questions that they might ask. And this might help you develop questions to ask them as well, which we'll go over afterwards. Also study the job description. And this coincides with your resume and your cover letter that you submitted. Really look at what the position requires, what skills, what experiences, and understand that you will be asked questions on the different qualifications and whether or not you would be a great fit. Write out your answers to pretty common interview questions, especially if it's a phone interview or a video interview. Having your notes readily available is going to help you guide your answers a bit more. Practicing your answers aloud is great if you have someone who can prep you for an interview, or a friend, or your advisor to think through your answers out loud. This really helps you develop your answer so that not only is it concise, but it's well thought out. Alrighty, first question. Why should we hire you? Companies want to ask this question because they want to make sure that you are the best fit for this role. And to answer this question, really look at the job description and align the skills and experiences they require for that position with your resume, with your cover letter. So think about what skills you have, whether it's communication or leadership. Provide explicit examples of how you've acquired those skills and why you would be the best fit for that job. For example, if this role is looking for strong analytical skills, this might be a great answer. And you'll notice in the couple examples that I'm showing you that the first sentence kind of reinstates the question being asked. And this is a way for you to pause and think about the example you want to present when asked these questions. So let's read through this. I know you are looking for someone with strong analytical skills. In my internship at Kaiser, I had a project in which I tracked what patients were coming into the clinic for, what services they got, and then followed up with them a month later to see if those services were helpful. Let's move on. Marketing experience. You also want someone who has marketing experience. As vice president of my sorority, I noticed that applications were down by 20%, and I devised an outreach plan to generate excitement about our sorority on campus, which increased applicants by 10%. Part of this outreach plan included organizing events on campus, such as a luau and scavenger hunt. You'll notice that this particular answer includes data, right? Numbers. This shows the result of the tasks and what you've accomplished. So if you can include these explicit details, even more so, because it measures your success. Team player. I have the ability to work as part of a team. In my internships at Kaiser and the Cost Plus Marketing Department, I was part of a team in which I had to bond quickly with my teammates because they were summer internships. Now this one you can continue working on it a bit more. How many people were in your team, exactly what type of collaborations or projects or assignments or activities did you work with as part of a team. Like I said, the more explicit the examples, the more detail you can include, the better. Because my reasoning is, you can tell me that you're a great communicator. You can tell me that You work very well in a team. You can tell me that you have great leadership skills, but if you don't provide examples of when you've displayed those skills and experience, then it's really difficult for me to envision that if I'm not given an example of when you've displayed those. So just keep in mind those little tidbits. Alrighty, this one is a tricky one. I know that you might have heard some people tell you not to discuss salary at the interview, but this can be asked. So what salary are you looking for? This is a way for companies to eliminate candidates, especially if they're not within budget, right? So how to tackle this? Research. Know the salary range for someone with your experience in that position. Glassdoor is a great resource for that. You can look for the salary ranges in various locations for the roles, and it keeps you updated to make sure that you are getting paid what you're worth with the experience that you have, in a very reasonable range that the company is willing to negotiate with. All right, these are some fun questions that some companies might ask. What famous person would you like to be? What superpower would you like to have? These are just random, out of the blue questions that you would have never expected. And the reason they want to ask you this is because they want to kind of test how you respond to stress, right? Situations that you're not expecting. So they try to throw you a question that you aren't prepared for just to see how you think on your toes. For these questions, take a deep breath, pause, and think thoughtfully about your answer. But there's no right or wrong answer for these questions. It's a time for them to kind of see how creative you are, and see kind of your personality and if you'll fit in with their company culture. So not too much pressure, but be thoughtful in your answer. There's nothing that you can say that would be wrong. But like I said, kind of see what type of person you are and your personality. So, alrighty, give me an example of a time when. So, behavioral questions are actually very common, especially when thinking about interviewing candidates with specific skill sets. And you can really prepare for this by looking at your previous experiences and thinking about the skills and qualifications that the job entails. This really helps uncover your traits, your character traits, your behavioral traits, how you react to certain situations. And you can utilize stories. What are your go-to stories from previous experiences? And use the STAR method. And we'll go into what a STAR method is. So the STAR method is really just a strategy to respond to these behavioral interview questions. Tell me about a time when you were assigned a project and had a tight deadline. Give me an example of when you had a difficult customer. How did you fix the situation? Tell me about a time when you had multiple parts of a project you had to complete. How did you juggle all those different tasks? So the STAR method stands for situation. What is the context of what is going on? What happened? What is the scenario? T stands for task. What did you do? How did you respond to this challenge? And then action. What steps did you take to address the problem or the task or the situation? And then most importantly, results. What did you accomplish? And if you can quantify it with, numbers, even better, because it shows and displays the actual progress that you've made in resolving the situation. And if it was a successful outcome, of course, include that as well. And we'll go into an example. So when I was an intern at Kaiser, we were planning an event at Farmers Market. Kaiser was going to have a booth at the Farmers Market in which people were spinning a big wheel to get a prize. That's the situation, right? But the day before the event, the prizes had not arrived. That's the challenge. And so what did this person do? First, I called the company that was supposed to deliver them, and they told me that it was on their schedule for the following week. Next, I researched the vendors that were going to be selling their products at the farmers market and figured out which ones were going to be selling non-perishable items. I contacted these vendors to see if we could purchase their products to use as prizes at our booth. I arranged to meet them before the farmers market and picked up the products. As a result, right, we were able to obtain 30 prizes and establish Kaiser as part of a healthy community. My idea of using the local vendors at future events and my idea to establish a pre-event checklist have been implemented. So this really shows, what was going on, right? Prizes weren't there. That's the challenge. The task was to get prizes. So this person took action and listed it out in steps: first, next, then. And then as a result, they were able to not only obtain the prizes, but also move forward so that Kaiser utilized local vendors. That's the result. Awesome. Alrighty, this question, do you have any questions for me? And this is typically at the end of an interview. And this really measures the level of interest and your preparedness for this interview. Doing your research is key in answering this question so that you can ask really thoughtful questions. Once you do your research on the company, you can check out their blog, see what's going on current event-wise. You can research your interviewers to kind of think about their career path and address any areas or issues that are really relevant to the company in the moment to show that you are invested not only in the company, but kind of their role in the industry that they're in. It's really important to have at least 3 questions for the interviewer, and it's kind of expected. If you don't, that just shows your level of interest. So develop any questions that are the most concerning to you in regards to the position, of course, but also think about the company and its role in its industry. And then don't forget that the interviewer really wants you to do well. So try to relax. My biggest advice for a lot of my students is to pause. I am very guilty of just speeding through my responses and thinking that I need to fill every piece of space with my response. But when you pause and you think about your answers and you allow the interviewer to absorb your responses, not only will your responses be memorable, but they'll be more concise and exactly the information that your interviewer is looking for. And a couple of reminders after interviews. Of course, you should send a thank you letter to the interviewer within 24 hours. Really think about the interview and what stood out to you. When you include a personalized message in your thank you note, not only does that make you stand out to the interviewer and they remember who you are, but thank you letters have been notoriously a deciding factor for a lot of companies. Some candidates don't send thank you letters, and that kind of, doesn't put them in the same place as somebody who does. So be sure at the end of an interview, ask for their contact information if you don't have it already, their email, and then connect with them via LinkedIn. I think it's really important to not only connect with different professionals to expand your network, but it can potentially open up that that additional step in personalizing that experience.